Switzerland, Cayman Islands, how the rich protect their assets that the poor can't. But maybe you can. My name is Gary Wong here from GaryWongRealty.com. I'm the author of the book on Vancouver real estate. Once again, I'm here with my business partner, VIP client, and great friend of mine, Peter Leung, also known as the Global Investor. Welcome to the show again. We've been shooting a series of videos on wealth and money, anything from what billionaires invest in to a beginner's guide to real estate investing. Today, we're going to be talking about how the rich protect their assets that the poor just can't. And so, Peter, thank you for being on the show. Talk to us about, first of all, why the rich protect their assets. What are they afraid of? What are they trying to do here?
Well, ultimately, it's the risk, right? So, why the rich decide to protect their assets is very simple, because they get a lot more limelight, they get a lot more attention, and they want to make sure that that their wealth is not exploited, that they're able to protect it for their generation. Because we don't go making money for somebody else's well-being. We go make money because we can afford it for our well-being and for our family, right? So we can last for generations to come. And if you're wealthy, the last thing you want is that, because of lawsuit, because for whatever reason, whether it's divorce or lawsuits or business failures, that all your money is going to go away. So you want to, it's almost like playing the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Every 5,000 you lock it in, right? Why do you do that? Because that allows you to have a base for your wealth to grow. And so you can take more calculated risks as your business grows.
Give us some examples. What do the high net worth do to protect their assets?
Well, certainly, I mean, we hear it all the time, whether it's in marriages in terms of prenuptial agreements, but also they look into long term, right? They don't look into just the negativity of marriages. They also look into how the growth together as a group, as a family. And I remember, Gary, this is going back several years, where me too was enlightened when I had a story shared with me. And what happened was, this family was able, 5 generations ago, was actually able to invest together as a brother, a family of 5. And as they grew their wealth, that all collaborated in terms of family money. And as generations happened, they bought real estate, they started businesses, they started involvement in key industries where they become major partners or players in those industries. And that wealth gets further accumulated, and of course using insurance and other vehicles, that allows their wealth to be astronomical generations later. And that's how I see my family, is how to accumulate for generations to come. Again, whether it's using trusts, foundations, or whether it would be using holding companies or holding entities for you to be able to do that. These are what the wealthy seriously look into.
Give me some concrete examples. What does one of your high net worth friends do to protect their wealth?
Well, definitely trusts, right? So family trust. They want to make sure that, again, it's all for the long term. They're not about, if it comes to stocks, it's not buying and selling every day. What they want to do is invest, have held in the trust, where they get to write the rules of the kingdom. Right? Anything that falls under this trust, they can do whatever they want, however they want to divvy it up.
So for the viewers who don't know what a trust is, maybe elaborate on that a little bit.
Well, that basically is a separate entity other than themselves. Disclaimer, I'm not a lawyer. I work with the people that structure these things, and that's why you have to have professionals, because laws do change all the time. Things do get applied from country to country, city to city, a little bit differently. And how to use these tools are absolutely fundamental in terms of applying to one person's situation. However, a trust is basically a separate entity which allows certain rules and stipulations to be written by a particular person to be executed by somebody else, right? So, whether I have the capability or not the capability, whether I'm around or not around anymore, they will execute as per my wish, right? And as money starts to grow, so I've seen trusts where people talk about no, we're not going to sell any property. Part of these trusts is we only accumulate more real estate, but we don't sell real estate, right? So those are type of rules where I said, wow, that's very inspiring. That's how you build for the long term, because we all know assets generally grow over time. Not immediately, but they all grow over time. And as these people use the trust structure to dictate their wishes, which is perhaps, like I say, not selling property unless 75% of the family agrees, right? So for the most part, it's not the next generation that get to flaunt their wealth. So they're given X amount of dollars or X amount of living expenses. So make sure this fund continues to grow. So when I see the wealthy, they're about living within their means. But at the same time, they have these, they put in place these strategies that allow their wealth to constantly exceed their expenses. So if the real estate starts earning $10,000 a month, they themselves, might only distribute $500. So as you can see, that money only gets bigger and bigger.
So for someone who is watching this and they're like, oh, I don't know if I'm at that level yet. So you don't have to give any specific recommendations per se, but how would you know if you're at that level or not? Like you're say ultra high net worth, or you're like upper class, or you're middle class, and when should I get started? And
well, that's a great question, but it all comes down to everybody should be looking at this. People have something to lose. We all have something to lose, right? We all have property or assets that we want to protect. We want to protect that from disaster, whether it's financial disaster or family disaster. So a lot of people buy real estate perhaps in their personal name. Well, maybe the average person should also look at how to have a holding company hold their assets, right? Or perhaps an operating company where they are able to invest into projects versus themselves. So that is something that can be passed on through a will or a power of attorney to next generation. I think we all have something that we can structure it with, and that exceeds ourselves, and that's for intergenerational wealth.
So how would they start? Like somebody in the high net worth, they obviously have the connections to build that through their lawyer or accountant, but somebody who's just getting started, they've been in their career working maybe 5 or 10 years. They're like, oh, well, that's for like when I make millions, or that's for like something down the road. Right. What would you say to that?
I'd say get started now, right? It's just like investing.
How?
Well, a lot of these tools are available. A simple holding company is no more than $500-600 Canadian to start up. So these are not things that are like, wow, so far-fetched that you have to structure something that's really, really complicated. It's just a matter of having these operations or having this company become the holding company of all your assets. So instead of you investing all amongst yourself, it may be invested through the company, into stocks, bonds, or bills, or it could be investing into real estate, or perhaps into even Bitcoin. Right? It doesn't have to necessarily be in your personal name that you invest in. It could be in a holding company.
So it would be more of a holding company would be something that holds property, and the property doesn't have to be in your personal name. Correct. So in order to decide about that, you'd probably want to speak with your lawyer and
your mortgage
broker, your accountant, and discuss the options about that. And it doesn't matter whether you're making $30,000 a year or $100,000 a year or $10 million a year. It's always good to get started. And there are people out there who are high net worth that don't have these in place. Maybe they got a large inheritance, yes, and they never thought about it. So what would you say? Like, how do they?
I've had an opportunity to meet a few of them, and it's very interesting where it actually surprises me that they're not prepared in whether it's a will or whether it's in the trust structure that they have. Because at the end of the day, there's a saying in Chinese that wealth does not transfer 3 generations. And for myself, being growing up in the Western culture, I said, this is crazy. I want to make sure I break that mold. I don't want to be the person who goes, my family built all that wealth. I start contributing to building more of that wealth, and then the 3rd generation loses it, right? That's a very sad thing. So I want to make sure that we employ the right strategies and to grow that wealth. Right. A lot of these high net worth, they are interested in, they may have had that large inheritance, And that's where, unfortunately, but also reality, the high net worth have a little bit more help because more people are knocking on their door going, hey, let me help you. But that doesn't make, everybody else not capable. I also believe that everybody has the right to be wealthy. Every person has the right to be financially free. So we have to take it amongst ourselves to look for those answers. It's not simply, it's not for me, buying a home's not for me, investing in that isn't for me. Well, what is? Identify what is. If those things aren't for you, then identify what is.
So many people have the limiting belief, well, I'm poor or I'm just middle class, like that's not for me. But what you're saying here is that you should always be talking with your lawyer, your accountant, and structuring, because it's not just about your life, it's about your children's lives, about your spouse's life, and your generation, because you don't want to be building a massive nest egg in your life and then your children have nothing later on. So, and
also keep in mind, taxes are a big one. We will always say this, right? If you fail to plan, you're never gonna get that far.
Yeah, you're planning to fail.
You're planning to fail, right? So we need to make sure that these are things that we look for when we're going through school. I mean, I remember this going through elementary school, secondary, even college. We get taught all these different things, but we didn't talk about money, right? We didn't talk. We talk about how to make money, but we don't know how to talk about how to preserve it. We talk about how to make money, but we don't talk about how to spend it. Correct way of using a credit card. So I think, in society today, we have to take it amongst ourselves to make sure that you surround with the right people, understand the knowledges of, what different strategies could be employed, right? Real estate or non-real estate, equities or non-equities. All these things are tools that we can use. Pick a few that works for you. Pick a few that you like to explore and, meets your rules, meets your guidelines, meets your comfort level. But make sure get started, right? Don't just wait because, people, the money's not going to wait for you. Opportunity isn't going to wait for you.
Because I hear my mentor says to me all the time, well, it's easy to make money, it's hard to keep it. And I guess this is all, asset protection is all about preserving it and passing it down to generation. And it's I'm very thankful for your nuggets of wisdom. It's really great. Unlike what most people think, the poor can get involved and they can get started, and there is a way for the middle class or even people who are below middle class to get educated and to start and plan. Maybe start off with writing a will. People always procrastinate and they wait until they're 70 years old and then they start deciding that. But most people, that's why people buy insurance, because you never know what life will hand you tomorrow, right?
Right. Well, always just understand what you're doing, what you want to be, what your wishes are for the future. It's very imperative that we, plan to be successful, right? And sometimes I see it, I hear it, Gary. It's not about the middle class. Cut that out, right? The bottom line is you live for yourself, right? Don't let anybody tell you you're upper or lower middle class. It doesn't matter. Chase your dreams, pursue what you want to do. And when you pursue what you want to do, you're going to get good at it. And when you get good at it, you're going to find a way to be financially profitable from it. And when you're financially profitable from it, you're going to love it a little bit more. So that is,
that's a great principle, because people label themselves. Oh, I'm lower class, I'm upper class,
yeah.
I'm middle class. And they always compare themselves with somebody else. And then that not only is that demotivating, but it distracts them from their own purpose, which is trying to get better every day for yourself, not for somebody else. You don't want to be like the Jones next door. You're not don't let anybody label you as something. The only person's opinion that's important is your own. Don't classify yourself to limit yourself, but take these nuggets of wisdom that Peter is sharing, and there's a lot of resources out there. Just get involved, get started, and we'll share more in the next video, so stay tuned. Thank you for watching my video. Tell me what you liked about it. Comment below. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you'll be notified of future videos. And if you want to learn more about real estate, click the videos over here.